Sorry, Miss Vanessa.
No problem. Okay. So remember that both Mercury and the moon, although the moon also talks about emotions, but it's also your mentality and quality, not as in good and bad quality, but the not necessarily depth.
It's like EQ and IQ.
Say that again?
Well, it would like the Mercury would be your IQ and the moon would be your EQ. Like intellect and emotional, like emotional intelligence and intellectual intelligence.
Yes, and it's not limited to that. It's not limited to just your emotional intelligence. It also has to do with how you work things out. Yes, when you're dealing with your moon, it does talk about you're going to put some kind of emotion into it, but it is still your mentality. You're still talking about your mentality when you're talking about the moon. You're talking about nurturing and having things grow. You're talking about being receptive and being supportive. You know, so how is that going to be manifest? How does the moon manifest in any particular sign? And that's what we're talking about when I say the quality of the mentality is described by the moon and by the sign that the moon is in. That's what, it's not quality good and bad, but quality as described by the sign. Okay. Now, we just said up at the first question, or the second question, that the sun and the moon were vital planets. How else can they be described? How else are they often described?
Male and female, or father and mother?
Yeah. There is also another word that describes them collectively. There's a, yeah.
Electric and magnetic.
They are, that's true too. No.
Positive and negative?
Yeah, yeah. They are also the lights.
The luminaries.
Yes, they're the lights. So they are the only lights. So what should that tell you when you go and you look at a horoscope? We are talking about tonight the first three very influential planets in a chart without talking about aspects. Because when you get into aspects, then you're looking at different ways that planets can be influential. But when you're looking at a chart, you are always going to look at the lights, and you're always going to consider Mercury. And then the last question, I don't know whether or not I said it. I kind of think I did, but if I didn't, I certainly want to introduce it now so that it is something that you can consider once you start assimilating this information. So which house or natal position exerts significant influence upon the overall makeup of an individual?
The ascendant?
The ascendant. Oh, I had the cap lock on. Yeah, the ascendant. Now, how come I said house or natal position? Because the ascendant is also the first house. As the first house and the ascendant are almost the same. certainly it becomes different when you have different planets occupying the house. Okay. So last week we talked about the sun, the moon, and Mercury. We put them in the categories of vital, intellectual, social, and business. We also talked about them being harmonious, discordant and convertible, electric and magnetic. And when you take these categories, you know that there are similar categories when you refer to the signs. And you can kind of get an idea of how a planet may behave when it is associated with a particular sign. So if you have an electric planet with an electric sign, you know that more than likely there's not going to be much going on there. And the pathways for communication or for expression are similar. But when you talk about a magnetic planet and an electric sign, you know, there could be more discipline would have to be exerted in order for someone to have cogent expression or to make sense. So that's why water signs are so nutty in the sun. Let me stop my crap. Okay, so I'm going to go to a new share for you now. We're going to start our, where is it? We're going to start what we're going to do today. Come on, behave yourself. Okay, so here we are. We're doing Astrology 101B. And what's the next planet after Mercury?
Venus.
Venus. Okay. Remember, after I introduced all of these categories into which we could place the planets, I then named the planets in order of their appearance in the sky. And their order of appearance is Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So, oh, come on. You know, that is not fair. I put things together so carefully. Oh, there it is. Pardon me. There, I did. Okay. Here we go. So now we're going to look at Venus. And Venus thought structure concerns the social urges. The best quality of Venus is affection. Its worst quality is pliancy. It expresses itself through the houses as, now it says gratuities, and when I think of gratuities, I think of tips. And it's not tips as much as it is the ease of life, luxuries, making things comfortable, acquisitions. These are things that are part of Venus. Its nature is mild, rather nice and social. What are the two signs that are connected to Venus are
Libra and Taurus.
Libra and Taurus. Okay. But it first expresses itself, if we're going around the zodiac, it first expresses itself as Taurus. And Taurus is an earth sign. Is it magnetic or electric? Taurus.
Magnetic.
Yeah. And so is Venus. So Venus and Taurus are in a magnetic sign. Will have more of a plushness to it. You know, nice, big, fluffy, comfortable pillows, softness. Yeah. Venus is talking about luxury. It seeks the line of least resistance. It talks about affections, being affectionate. The types of things to which one is attracted as far as beauty is concerned. It talks about being happy. It rules confections. So we look at candy. Okay. and pastries. Another word that comes to mind is affable, which certainly definitely is applicable to Libra. But when Libra expresses itself in Virgo, it is, you know, they are compatible, but it expresses itself at a different level, and not level as in high and low, but, you know, just in another space. Whereas Libra's expression of Virgo is more intellectual. So they're definitely looking at the arts in a different way. I mean, certainly, and both Libra and Taurus are looking at jewelry, the fineries, cosmetics. It can be manipulative. Venus can be manipulative. But what it is seeking is harmony. What Venus seeks is harmony. It wants everybody. Venus and will go along to get along. It seeks the line of least resistance naturally. So when you discover that in yourself, it's just something that should, you know, that could make you pause before you continue forward. It can then allow you to be diplomatic in saying no. Talks about pleasure, talks about joy, talks about companionship. Certainly with Libra, it's talking about companionship. With Taurus, it's talking about acquisitions. Appreciation of beauty, being gracious, elegant. Whereas you know, this is how I look at it. I think of Venus and Taurus as being plush, whereas Venus in Libra being sharply elegant, a different kind of sophistication. Taurus, the Venus is more warm, where a Libran Venus could sometimes be snooty. Effete, elite. Because it's, and you know, Libra is an air planet. Air talks about intelligence, air talks about communication. So this is, a Libra will certainly tell you how they feel, and a Taurus will show you. So Venus, a Libra Venus tells you, whereas a Taurian will show you. Both will make you feel comfortable, but it's a different kind of comfort. It has a different flavor to it. So I just talked about the rulers of Venus, both Taurus and Libra. Venus is exalted in Pisces. That is not under, once a person with Venus and Pisces loves you, you're going to be loved forever, regardless of how stupid or how mean and ugly you might act to them. They might not necessarily be around you all the time, but they will always love you. It is a not undemanding. Oh, what, I can't think of the word, and I had it, but you don't have to do anything. Once they love you, you don't have to do anything to keep it. It's the way we hope parents love their children. What's the word? It's something. I can't think of it. If somebody else thinks of it, I'd be pleased.
Unconditional.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's it. Unconditional. Oh, I was a music major. Anyhow, Venus is in harmony when it's in Aquarius. So if its rule is in Taurus and Libra, where would its detriment be?
Scorpio and Aries.
Yes. Yes. If it's exalted in Pisces, where was it? How about the fall?
The fall, if it's exalted in Pisces, would the fall be in
Virgo.
Virgo?
That's right. Yeah, in Virgo. And if it has harmony in Aquarius, where would it have inharmony?
Leo.
Or in Leo, yeah. So when you are studying the exaltation, the rule, and the harmony of these planets, remember that the fall, the detriment, and the disharmony or inharmony are their opposites. So you only have to memorize one set. And as long as you know what the opposite signs are, you got the rest. And I have a form for you that I'll send out to help you memorize that. And I will send directions as well. But anyhow, okay, so now the color is yellow, the metal is copper, and it is an essential metal when we're talking about alchemy. So when you want to transmute different feelings, you need to have copper in the mix so that it can be malleable. You can change it. It's the flux that helps join the metals. You know, if you're soldering something, you're going to need copper in there to join the metals. It's the flux. So the major arcanum card that goes with Venus is number 6, the 2 paths. And it says, for the common man, the allurement of vice has a greater fascination than the austere beauty of virtue. Take care of thy resolutions. Obstacles bar before thee the path thou wouldst pursue. Contrary chances hover over them, and thy will wavers between 2 resolutions. Indecision is above all else worse than a bad choice. Indecision is worse than a bad choice. Advance or recede, but do not hesitate, and know that a chain of flowers is more difficult to break than a chain of iron. Sorry, and the phrase that came to mind as I was writing this out was, you kill them with kindness. You know, certainly the kindness wins out. What are some other adages that talks about sweet over sour? Catch more flies
More
with
flies
honey
with
than
honey than
vinegar.
you do with vinegar.
Yeah, yeah. And there are certainly more, but you know, that one definitely comes to mind. So again, Venus is a talks about the social urges. It talks about mildness and being soft and affable and congenial and smoothing things out. It's feminine, magnetic, and harmonious. It's a benefic. Venus is a benefic,
Harmonious.
harmonious. And the major arcanum is the two paths, number 6. Which way should I go? Which way should I go? And indecision is worse than making a bad decision. So choose. Was that Fisher cut bait? There's another one talking about the pot.
Vanessa, that seems to come up a lot, the need to choose instead of wavering and indecision in a lot of spaces. Do you see that a lot?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's something that my name starts with a V. And if you look in the Sacred Tarot, number 6 is V. So I have to deal with that every time I start anything, any goddamn thing. Fortunately, A comes right after it. So that if I once I manage to get over my indecision, I'm able to go forward. But and you know, there are so many things I'm sure that you have come to realize that your parents said to you when you were younger, that damn it, they were right. How dare they be that right? And certainly age, as you get older, as you become more experienced in dealing with life and certainly looking yourself, you will see these different things and you'll be able to identify them a little faster and keep moving. So it's all a process. You have the choice all the time to recognize it quickly and quickly according to whom. And who's it? Eddie Harris. He wrote a jazz song and it was the theme song of a Bond movie, maybe it wasn't Bond or maybe Man from U.N.C.L.E. something a few years ago. Compared to what? Look it up. Eddie Harris is the song. Compared to what? And it's and that's certainly something that you can talk to Venus. You know, what is got to make it real compared to what? That's the chorus. So what is real? Anyhow, anything else? You know, anybody else want to say something about Venus? Wherever Venus is, that shows where you the types of things that you value. So Venus talks about values as well. So the natural house for Venus would be, there are 2 natural houses for Venus, and they would be
2 and 7.
Yeah, 2 and 7, right. So in 2, it talks about values and acquisitions. In 7, it talks about partnerships and open enemies. Remember, you have these two ways that Venus can express. It expresses feminine or masculine. Isn't it wonderful? Just the way it should.
I listened to a podcast the other day about Venus.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just talking about how people look at like the fluffier side of Venus, but actually when you consider Venus in Libra, it is like, because of the values, like you have to identify what doesn't relate to you to understand what you do relate to, which it was just.
The morning star Venus compared to the night star Venus are 2 different types of Venus, or 2 sides.
Who do you think the morning would be?
The morning is less inharmonious, I believe, as opposed to the night. I don't quite understand it, but it
Well,
makes sense.
which sign do you think the morning Venus would
The morning star,
represent?
I don't
Which
know.
sign? Well, here, if we're looking at,
Venus, or I mean, it would be Taurus because that's when things are coming alive.
actually, what, when we're talking about light, we're talking about aggressiveness and going forward.
Oh, wow.
Sun, the sun?
Well, with the sun, yeah, but it's still, the morning Venus is more Libra, whereas
Oh.
the night Venus is Taurus.
Oh, okay.
A different kind of
Okay.
comfort and warmth than, because when night is magnetic, night ruled by the moon, magnetic.
Okay, thanks for that.
Okay, make sense?
Yes,
Okay. And again, take a look at that, if you can. Course 8, it's chart 12, Roman numeral 12. Okay, so now, what comes after Venus?
Mars?
Mars comes after Venus. And when we're talking about Mars, we're talking about strife. We're talking about fighting for something. It's the aggressive urges. It's being assertive. Mars is full of energy. Mars wants its way. It's an active planet, a social planet, a male planet, electric rather than magnetic. So it's going out. If I didn't say before, if you want a bit more insight into the symbols used to describe both the planets and the signs, go to Ancient Masonry. That's course number 4. So we're talking about active. Oh, I also didn't tell you what parts of the body that Venus rules. Venus rules the skin and the veins. And internal generative functions. It also rules the hair. Beauty. Samson and his hair. Whereas Mars rules the external sexual organs and the muscles and sinews of the body. And that makes sense. If you're going to be aggressive, you would hope they were strong. And now that strength although it still refers to physical strength, it can also include mental strength as we are becoming more and more man's survival more and more depends on his intellectual capacity and ability to solve problems. So it is assertive and aggressive. Certainly rules army and officers, strong desires, brute strength. It can also be destructive. The Mars is energetic. Its key word is energy. It talks about the aggressive urges. Its best quality is being able to move, take initiative. Its worst quality is being harsh and cruel. And it expresses itself through the houses as bringing some kind of strife. And it's not as dire as strife to me implies, but it's something for which you're going to have to be aggressive and be assertive. It can be rash and headstrong, fearless. Courage is certainly associated with Mars. And courage is not always necessarily fearless, but going in there and doing it regardless of the fear. And that's what Mars can do. The tone of Venus, I didn't write it down. Wait a minute, I'll tell you just a minute. The tone of Venus is E. And the more that I think about it, I told you, maybe I'll send you that too. I'll put it on a staff because that's what I want to see these tones on. I want to see them on a musical staff. But I think they're talking about the middle C. Zane is talking about the middle C when he says it's a D or an F. He's talking about starting at middle C. Those or in the middle part of the range of instruments. And the tone for Mars is C, and that's middle C. So it's gonna go. That's where we're starting, and we're gonna keep going from there. Middle C. Aries rule. Aries and Scorpio have an intimate association with Mars. Aries is more aggressive, they're both, Aries and Scorpio are both aggressive. They're both assertive. Aries is more likely to lead, and Scorpio may lean more toward destructiveness. Certainly with Aries, with Mars in Scorpio, you're looking at a surgeon or somebody who's going to go down to the bone to examine and to find and to get what they want, to assert their authority. Because a Mars can be rash and impulsive, it can also talk about accidents. The animal desires, the gross animal desires and passions. And then it is those animal desires and passions that when transmuted, allow one to grow. So if its rule is Aries and Scorpio, what's its detriment?
Libra and Taurus.
Yes. If it's exalted in Capricorn, Mars is exalted in Capricorn. Why would that be? Think about Capricorn. Capricorn is sure-footed. It is a careful planner. When it goes after something, it is planning to succeed. So it is taking that energy and it is focusing that energy toward a goal. And that's why Mars is exalted in Capricorn. So if it's exalted in Capricorn, what's its fall?
Cancer.
Cancer, yeah. And it has harmony with Leo. And in harmony with
Aquarius.
Aquarius. You see, I have the symbol here in a nice red color because that's the color for Mars. That's when we're going after it. That's what when we're combative. That's the color you flash in front of a bull and he's coming after you. It's a color for passion. It's also a color for stop. Wonder how they got that. In any event. And the metal is iron. And the key, major arcanum card for Scorpio is lightning, number 16. And it says, only God is absolute. Reflect on the old oaks that have defied the ravages of time and have finally been brought down after a century of immunity. And think that thou too mayst be brought low at the very moment of thy great arrogance by some unexpected blow. Now, I generally associate lightning or an unexpected blow with Uranus, but no, it's Mars. Talks about accidents and catastrophes. So this is looking at being circumspect when you feel impulsive. Okay, we gotta hurry along here. Next planet is
Jupiter.
Jupiter. Come on, there we go. And apparently the color for Jupiter is, well, it didn't show up right, but it's purple or indigo. This is the religious urges. And when we're talking Jupiter, we're talking about abundance. That's a key word. Its nature is jovial. Its best quality is benevolence, and its worst quality is conceit. I'm all that. It is a business planet. It is harmonious. It's electric and masculine, and it's the major benefic. What was the other benefic?
Venus.
Venus. So any planet in aspect with either one of the benefics has additional harmony added to it. When an aspect is a difficult aspect, it softens it. Any aspect with any difficult aspect with Venus and Jupiter is softened. It rules the liver and nourishment of the electromagnetic form. Because we're talking here about the religious urges. It's philosophy. This is the higher expression of publishing, of different kinds of communication. Jupiter is ruled by Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is over there in the 9th house. And Jupiter is cheerful and beneficent and charitable, philanthropic, rules religious people, particularly religious authorities. Talks about abundance. It talks about overdoing things as well, extravagance. It talks about professional people. You know, since the color is purple and indigo, purple is also associated with royalty. So being able to look at something from a global perspective and to take that and try to give it to others. Jupiter is talking about patronage. In the 17 and 1800s, musicians and you know, people like Bach and Handel and Schubert and Vivaldi, they all had patrons in order to survive. So I guess I should take a look at their charts and see how Jupiter was positioned and aspected in their charts, because musicians at that time certainly relied on patronage in order to survive. Wherever Jupiter is positioned in a person's chart indicates their area of abundance. Because that's what Jupiter is about. It's about abundance. It's about being big. Talks about Santa. Santa Claus, a big, jovial, happy person. Publishing, religion, the law, people of wealth. Again, it's ruled by Sagittarius. And if it's ruled by Sagittarius, where's its detriment?
Gemini?
Yep. It's exalted in Cancer. Its fall is if it's exalted in Capricorn, I'm sorry, I said it.
You it away.
It's exalted in Cancer. Its fall is in Capricorn. Now, when we're talking about fall and detriment and harmony and inharmony, it doesn't mean that these things are bad. It just means that the expression in the avenues for expression in those signs for that planet is requires more discipline.
Where's the harmony again?
It's how I didn't say that yet, but the harmony is in Taurus. Its color, its metal is tin, and its color is purple or indigo, and its tone is A. A is also associated with 440, and A is the tone to which every instrument in an orchestra tunes itself. So it's a place where everybody comes together to be in harmony. So it's talking about religion, it's talking about philosophy, it's talking about philanthropy, poor woman. Veneration is certainly a difficult aspected. Jupiter might show itself as a zealot. Anyhow, the major arcanum card to which Jupiter is assigned is number 5, the Hierophant. And before saying of a man that he is fortunate or unfortunate, thou must know the use to which he has put his will. For every man creates his life in the image of his works. The genius of good is at thy right, and the genius of evil at thy left. Their voice can be heard only by the conscience. Retire into the sanctuary of thy heart, listen to the voice of silence, and guided by it, thou will reach the goal of thy aspirations. So, I remember one time somebody told me Jupiter is also about self-aggrandizement, and that's conceit. I'm all that, you ain't nothing. And certainly a poorly aspected Jupiter can show all of that, because I've got it good. I'm this wonderful thing, because it is feelings of fellowship, and certainly that goes along as with it being the major benefic, along with Venus. Venus is on a more earthly level, whereas Jupiter raises it. It raises that bar. What kind of planet is Jupiter? It is a business planet. It is electric and masculine. It is the major benefic. Any planet in aspect with either Jupiter or Venus, that aspect is made more congenial or softened, or if it's a good aspect, it's real good. because these are the benefic planets, Venus a benefic and Jupiter the major benefic. So next we talk to good old Saturn. And you certainly have heard about the Saturn return, which occurs at around age 30. And it's 27, 28. And that's the amount of time it takes Saturn to visit every sign in the zodiac in your chart. So when we're talking about returns, we're talking about when the planet returns to its natal position. And I do believe I sent you that. It's an expression of the planets through the houses. And it talks about the planetary orbits. The moon takes 28 to 29 days to visit every sign in the zodiac. Venus takes about 7 months. Mercury takes 88 to 89 days. Mars takes about 2 years. It's 1.9 years to visit every sign in the zodiac. Jupiter takes 12 to 13 years. So you do become different when you're talking about, oh, I can't think of the guy's name. But anyhow, there are different stages when you're doing education. Grades 1 through 3 are talking about the basics of education. When you get to 4, you start looking at developing a child's abstract thinking. And at age 4, they're about 8 years old. So that's halfway through Jupiter. And my great nephew turned 14 the beginning of this year. He was 13, yeah, maybe he was, but now he's really a teenager. So he's become big. And as some people, I remember some woman telling me her daughter was acting out. She said, yeah, she's smelling herself. So I think Rodney understands that. So yeah, he's really all that now. He's the big man. He's a good kid in any event. He's a Capricorn, and if Capricorns start out old and they get younger as they get older, Capricorns get lighter as they get older. So it's a joy to be around an older Capricorn, because they've been careful and they made it. So when we're talking about Saturn, we're talking about strife or the great teacher. Saturn is sometimes called the great teacher, because when you're looking at Saturn, you're looking at responsibility. You're looking at being frugal. And because you want to be so careful, you're very practical and you plan things carefully. You're going to follow those rules because you want to get to where you want to go. And you also want to please those in authority so that you can get what you want. So Capricorns can identify how they should please a superior in order to get what they want. They're persistent. Saturn talks about being responsible. So about ages 27, 28, 30, 29, 30, during those ages, you're starting to come about it. And you're looking at yourself differently. That's the first time you realize that your parents really did know what they were talking about. Yeah, and you come to realize that some of the things that you might have been rebelling against are really a good foundation. You start to look at your basic education in a different, with a different perspective. It's talking about determination, hard work. But then we're talking about a misfortune too. So the other side of Saturn can be great misfortune. Severe conditions, poverty. And yeah, looking at poverty and not just material poverty, but poverty in every house. You know, so if Saturn were in Saturn in the second house, you could see it as a difficulty in acquiring possessions. And you have to work hard in order to get what you want. Saturn in the 10th house said, well, most people do work hard in establishing their career, in establishing their reputation. So that is, well, it's a natural house of Capricorn, and since Capricorn is ruled, has this association with Saturn, it's a natural house for Saturn. It's a natural house in which to apply discipline, planning, step by step in order to get to your desired destination. Now, also because they're looking so careful and they want to make sure and they're going through all of this, it could be susceptible to superstitions. And they certainly are crafty. What was one of Richard Nixon's, and I'm dating myself, yes, but maybe somebody else realizes, knows this too. But how else did they describe Richard Nixon? He was what?
Tricky Dick.
Tricky Dick, yeah, Tricky Dick. That's right. So Capricorn's gonna be quite crafty. They're subtle. They can be awfully subtle because they're so reserved. And this is Capricorn. They reserved and conserving. They conserve what they have. They hold on to it. They're frugal. That could be a nice way to say cheap. But I know I can be awfully damn cheap too. So yeah, it's applying discipline, being able to concentrate, to make plans to get what it is that you want, to achieve whatever your goals happen to be. Talking about something concrete. I know that when I moved into my first co-op, I called my Capricorn girlfriend to come and bless the place and to organize my kitchen. And it worked perfectly. She was the absolute perfect person to come in there and put everything where it belonged. And it was the best working kitchen I have had. And I used her guidance at every subsequent house to which I moved and had to organize things. Where do you want it? Let's talk about this triangle, that kitchen triangle. Kitchen triangle is the sink, the stove, and the refrigerator. So we got that triangle and everything. Where do you put the glasses? Next to the sink. Where do you put the pots? Next to the stove. And where do you put the refrigerator? Next to your bed. No. Okay. So now Saturn is the major malefic. And if I didn't say it before, what do you think the other malefic would be? It talks about struggle and strife. Mars, yeah. So as with Venus and Jupiter, they lend harmony to whatever they're associated with. Mars and Saturn will lend difficulty, will demand more effort.
I have a Saturn moon.
You have a Saturn moon?
Yeah. Saturn conjuncts my moon.
Oh, Saturn conjunct the moon. Okay.
It's a bit of a bummer.
And it allows you to be disciplined with your emotions. It
Yeah.
allows you to put things in their you can use this in order to put things in their proper perspective, so that you don't let the moon run away with you. Saturn is like a tether. Yes, it makes these things a little difficult to express, but how can you alchemize them so that they work together? Use the discipline of Saturn, the planning and practical nature of Saturn to guide the moon and to express the moon. So that when you tell somebody about your feelings, you're telling them exactly the way you feel. And Saturn, because it does like to please those in authority, you can apply diplomacy in doing that.
Which books does it talk about that more? I guess every book in some level, right?
Oh, yeah, you have to go through every book, but we're still just talking astrological signatures.
Yeah.
Book 2. That's why, you don't have to know every word in the book to pass the test. And I know I've said this before, just pass the test, get through the books. You're going to read them again anyway.
Mhm.
And when you read them again, you're going to get something different out of it, because the next book you read is going to shed light on the previous book you read. And then you're going to say, but if it says that, what's going to happen here? How is this knowledge going to be expanded when I read the next book? Because they all do. And also, the books, how many books are in the course? In the
21.
Brotherhood of 21. How many cards are in the Major Tarot?
21,
22.
20.
21. So they're all related. It's all related. And you just have to keep studying. This is not Prime, Amazon Prime. It's not going to come right away. You have to study it. You have to work at it. You have to apply discipline. You have to apply Saturn in order to get to this. Anyhow, Saturn and Capricorn have a rulership relationship. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, or Saturn rules Capricorn. So its detriment would be
Cancer?
Cancer. Saturn is exalted in Libra. Can you see that? Who can explain? Who can see something where how that would work wonderfully?
In the court system.
Uh-huh. Yeah, not being rash and allowing your biases to take over. Having that balance. Because Libra is the balance, and sometimes Librans can be known for indecision, whereas having a relationship with Saturn would allow them to exercise a more practical expression. Okay, so if it's exalted in Libra, where is its fall?
Aries.
Mhm. It has harmony with Virgo.
Pisces would be the disharmony.
Exactly. Its color is blue and its tone is G. And the major arcanum card with which it is associated is number 15, the Black Magician. And that's certainly indicative of the not attractive quality of Saturn. Saturn is the safety urges. Its key word, as I have here on the slide, is crystallization. Its best quality is system, organization. Its worst quality is selfishness. No, this is just for me, you can have it. And I'll make sure that you're not going to have any. And it expresses in the houses as poverty or lack. And maybe that might be a better, a different way to understand it. It expresses as lack, a lack of something, a poverty in that particular area, requiring a bit more energy in order to get what is needed in that particular area of your chart. So the Black Magician, the most unprofitable thing in the world is selfishness, pride and rebellion, but enchain the soul to lowest spheres. But all trials and misfortunes accepted with resignation to the supreme will are an accomplished progress, bringing an eternal reward. Cease to rely upon their own power and wisdom and labor to disengage thyself from pride and selfishness, which but bind thee to matter, mortality, and evil fate. So, what did you? A Sting song. Talk about set them free. If you love them, set them free. And if you want love, you got to give it. And if you're just sitting there waiting for it, it's not going to happen. That's Dusty Springfield. I'm so old. What can I tell you? Anyhow,
Vanessa,
yeah.
doesn't Saturn have double rulership?
Yes, Saturn can also, before the discovery of the next planet that we're going to talk about, Saturn also ruled Aquarius.
Okay.
I have a Beatles quote, like, and in the end, the love you make is equal to the love you take.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, yeah. And in the end, I love you. No, I think it's the other way around. The love you take is equal to the love you make. I don't know. I don't.
Yeah.
Because they did say, and then here, let's go to another Beatles song. What do they say? All you need is love. Ah, ba-na-na-na. So, and well, the 60s and the 70s were a magical time, as is the time we're living through now. This is a time that can engender great growth. And there are some things that are starting to show it, although certainly Elon Musk is swimming in money. He's also, the product that he's providing is also being good to the earth. And more companies now are looking at things that, well, yeah, they'll benefit themselves, but they're going to provide a benefit for those who use it. They're looking at being more responsible. So what are the planets that are talking about doing this? First, we're upsetting this apple cart. And we're upsetting this apple cart because it's unjust. And because why not? Let's do it. Uranus and Pluto. And Uranus and Pluto also want to change the paradigm of society. And Saturn says, no, I like it the way it is. but I'll think about it because I know it's going that way, but I still like it the way it is. So we're going to get there. We can't help it. We might have to go through a lot of crap before we get there, but we're going to get there. And this is a very it could prove to be a very fertile period of time for people to grow. I know that there has been more interest in this. Just look at this class. There's more interest in the Church of Light, in astrology. Astrology is being taken serious or somewhat seriously again. You know, it goes through cycles, and it's, you know, some might look at it as superstition, and I know I look at it as a means to examine myself and to provide different means to be of service to others. So it's not, you know, Mercury is retrograde, don't leave the house. That's, you know, Mercury is retrograde, read that document carefully. That's what Mercury retrograde means to me. Read that document carefully. If you're writing something, make sure you dot every I and cross the T, and that the 5 looks like a 5 and not an S. That's what Mercury retrograde means. It doesn't mean don't sign anything. Doesn't mean don't buy anything. What it means is get the service contract. We're done. You have to read the book. Read the book, pass the test, go to the next one. Read the book, pass the test, go to the next one. And then when you finish, start again. Because you're going to get more out of it the next time around. And when you finish it the second time, start again. You want to learn astrology? You got to do charts. Lynn Palmer, she was a member, right, Vega? I think Lynn Palmer has
Still a member.
Yeah, Lynn Palmer had a book that well, it was the book that I was first introduced to astrology with, and it allowed you to assign all of the planets and an ascendant. They weren't exact, they were ballpark things, but I don't know if it's still in print, and I can't remember the name of the book, but anything by Lynn Palmer.
She has her own website, Lynn Palmer.
So.
Is that L-Y-N-N? Lynn?
L-Y, yep, L-Y-N-N-E, Lynn Palmer. And then, of course, you can always go to the, have you downloaded the Blue Book?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Look over the Blue Book. It gives, you know, it has short descriptions of both the signs and the planets. However, that's a jumping off point. So look at the descriptions in that text and generate a list of synonyms for yourself. That will help you develop a deeper understanding of the signs and the planets.
So this has been my favorite Christmas present to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, good job.
As I start looking at this every day, I start understanding better what you're saying.
Uh-huh. Well,
So-
can you, let me see, I want to make sure. Nope, it's not
No.
going to behave. Anyhow, this is, who is it? This is a Honeycomb Collective. They're a company out of London. And this book has my natal chart. It has solar returns for 21 and 22. It has an ephemeris for each month. And it shows the natal aspects, natal transit, and lunar, mundane lunar aspects according to my chart and where I am in Durham, North Carolina. So I think this it's a journal. It's in a journal format. When you open, and I got the wire bound, so if you open it flat, you've got 2 weeks looking at you. It's just another one. And at the end, in the end of the book, it has the ephemeris for an entire year. So if you want to look at just general trends, you know, I'm looking at the February ephemeris, and I know that Mercury is still retrograde because it's a different color. The column is a different color. I know, well, because we don't use those, but the nodes of the moon.
Where'd you get that?
It's called Honeycomb Collective. You have to Google it.
Did you get the big one or the little one?
I got the little one. Honeycomb. HONEYCOMB.co. You can get one for 6 months. You can get one for the year. There's a big one. That's more like a desk book, and this is a journal, and I find it convenient.
The other thing
Because it
that,
shows me things, it shows me just for that day without confusing me with everything in the ephemeris. It shows the things that are affecting me for that day. Now, as I said, you know, the moon is void, of course, at 11:58 tonight. So, you know, hopefully we will all be sleeping so we won't feel being floating out in the world without a tether. But you know, it shows me the transiting today. The moon is in Aquarius, and at 12:46 a.m. So this morning, the moon and the sun were conjunct. It showed me that at 6 o'clock this morning, the moon and Saturn were conjunct. It shows the phases of the moon. And, you know, certainly as women, there are different things that are ascribed to the moon. You know, it's the tides and emotions and mentality and the way you look at things, your perspective of looking at things, how you internalize information that comes to you. There are also, you know, Ben Franklin, his Poor Richard's Almanac. Ben Franklin was an astrologer. How do you think he wrote the almanac? And told people when to plant stuff and when to do different things. I remember there was a time that they said, write a blank check to yourself as the moon is waxing, so that you can attract financial rewards. And why did it work? Because you had it up here and you were transmitting energy out to pull it back in. And writing the check allowed you to make that idea concrete. They say if you want your hair to grow, cut your hair when the moon is waxing, and your hair will grow. So there are lots of things that you can do, talk about it with the moon. And one, because these are the lights are the more visible, and they're definitely influential. The other planets have a more visceral or internal effect. And you're not just the sun and the moon. You are all of these things combined because they all talk to each other. They all interact with each other and make you as crazy or as sane as you want to be. At any time you want either of those characteristics. I was just thinking about Mel Brooks. I forget the name of the movie that he made, but it's Good to Be King. Yeah, so, and he was certainly a nut. But he was a good old nut. He did things that allow people to relax and to not take themselves so seriously. What I'm doing now is I'm frantically looking for my paper. I can't find it because I had everything so well organized. And then I started pushing things around. Oh, I found it. The closing ceremony. So, any questions before we end this?
Can I shut off the recording?
Yes, please.